The Hollow Broth. The first thing you should know about my family's restaurant is that there was no menu. There was one pot, one ladle, one dish. People drove 6 hours for it. Some drove 12. We had customers from Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, even New York. They came up the mountain in expensive SUVs and rented trucks, left their cars near the washed-out county road, and walked the last half mile because the bridge had collapsed years before and nobody had ever bothered to rebuild it. They did not complain. Not about the mud, not about the mosquitoes, not about the fact that our restaurant looked less like a business and more like an old farmhouse somebody had nailed a porch onto. They came for the broth. Hollow broth. That was what my father called it. My mother called it our blessing. The customers called it a miracle. They said it made stiff joints stop aching. They said they slept better after drinking it. They said their skin looked younger. One man from Pittsburgh swore his arthritis disappeared for 3 days after one bowl. A woman from Nashville claimed her migraine stopped for a week. The stories grew. So did the line outside our door. My father never advertised. He didn't need to. People found us anyway. The Hollow Table sat deep in a fold of West Virginia mountains where cell service died 10 miles before the road did. There were 14 houses in the Hollow, one church, one abandoned school, a mechanic's shed, and our restaurant. That was the whole world I knew. I was 16 when I finally understood why my parents had never let me taste the broth. Before that, I thought they were cruel. Afterward, I understood cruel was too small a word. My name is Lena Ward. My sister's name was Rebecca. Everybody called her Becca. She was 23. For most of my childhood, Becca was the person who made our house feel like a place worth coming home to. She taught me how to skip stones, how to climb the sycamore behind the church without getting caught, how to lie to Mom without looking guilty. She kept candy hidden in a coffee tin beneath her bed and always gave me the biggest piece. Then something changed when I was 12. Becca stopped taking me places, stopped laughing when I stole her sweaters, started yelling. Sometimes she said she hated me. Sometimes she told me I was stupid. Once she grabbed my arm so hard it bruised and said, "Get out of this house as soon as you can." I cried for 3 days. I thought she meant she wanted me gone. I did not understand until much later that she was trying to save my life. By the time I was 16, Becca barely left her room. My parents said she was sick. That was the explanation for everything. Why the door stayed locked, why my mother carried medical supplies into the room, why my father installed blackout curtains, why Becca had lost so much weight, why strangers were sometimes brought to her door before they were served. The customers never went inside. At least I never saw them go inside. My father would take them down the narrow hallway at the back of the restaurant, speak to them for a few minutes, then bring them back smiling. I once asked him what happened back there. He slapped me hard enough that my ear rang for an hour. "Kitchen," he said, "now." That was how most conversations with my father ended. Dad's name was Russell Ward. He was 51 and looked 10 years younger. Customers noticed. So did I. He had thick black hair, strong arms, and the kind of energy most men his age had lost. My mother, Elaine, was 48. She had almost no gray in her hair and a face strangers regularly guessed was 35. The broth was their advertisement. They drank it every morning before we opened. They never let me near the pot, not once. I asked why when I was little. Mom told me, "You don't need it." When I was older, Dad said, "You haven't earned it." Becca used to say, "Be glad." The last time she said it, she was lying in bed with an eye taped to her arm. Her face looked gray. Her abdomen was swollen beneath a white blanket. I thought she was pregnant. Everybody in the Hollow did. Nobody said who the father was. Nobody asked. People in our town were very good at not asking questions if the answer might cost them something. "Becca," I whispered. She opened her eyes. "What?" "I brought your water. Put it there." I set the glass beside her bed. She watched me. I looked at the swelling under the blanket. "Does it hurt?" Her face changed. "Go." Mom said, "Go, Lena." "What's wrong?" "Get out." "I'm trying to help." "Then leave." She turned her face toward the wall. I hated her in that moment. I hated how easily she could make me feel small. I hated that Mom and Dad treated her like something precious while I washed dishes until my fingers cracked. I hated that she got hot meals while I ate whatever was left. I hated that she was allowed to stay in bed all day. I did not know the chain around her ankle was hidden beneath the blanket. I did not know the 4 was not medicine. I did not know my sister had been trying to die for months. The Hollow Table opened at 11. By 10:30, customers were already waiting on the porch. Dad had a reservation list, though he pretended he did not. He liked making people feel lucky. Scarcity made them obedient. "You only cook one pot?" tourists asked. "One pot," he always said. "Why?" "Because that's all the mountain gives us." People loved that answer. It sounded mystical. It sounded old. It sounded expensive. The truth was simpler. We could only make as much as Becca's body produced. I discovered that on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were usually slower. That week, they were not. A video about our restaurant had gone viral somewhere. The parking pull-off was full by 9. People waited under umbrellas in the heat. A man in a golf shirt shouted because Dad told him there were no bowls left. "I drove 300 miles. "Then drive 300 back, Dad said. The man turned red. "You're running a scam." Dad smiled. "No one asked you to come." The man stepped closer. Dad's smile vanished. I had seen that change before. Everyone in the Hollow had. The man must have seen something too because he backed away. I was carrying firewood from the shed when Dad saw me looking. "What are you staring at?" "Nothing." "Then move." He kicked the back of my thigh. I nearly dropped the wood. "Useless," he muttered. I carried the bundle around the kitchen. That was when I heard Becca scream. Not loud, muffled, like someone had pressed a pillow over her mouth. I stopped. Mom appeared at the hallway entrance. "Lena." I turned. "Kitchen." "What happened?" "Nothing." I heard "kitchen." Her face told me not to ask. I went, but I did not stay. The kitchen had an old pass-through window facing the rear hall. The wood around it had warped over the years, leaving a thin gap. I waited until Mom disappeared into Becca's room. Then I pressed my eye to the crack. Becca was sitting upright in bed, or trying to. A leather strap crossed her chest. Another held one wrist. I could not see the other. Dad stood beside the bed. Mom adjusted a clear tube connected to a glass container. Becca shook her head. "No." "Stop fighting," Mom said. "Please, you'll hurt yourself." "I can't do it again." Dad put one hand on her shoulder. "Then don't make this harder." Becca looked toward the door. Her eyes were wild. "Lena!" My heart stopped. Did she know I was there? Mom slapped her. "Don't bring her into this." Becca started crying. Something moved under the skin of her abdomen. Not a kick, not one movement, several. Small ridges traveled from one side to the other. I pressed my hand over my mouth. Dad leaned over her. "Hold her." Mom pinned Becca's arms. Dad pushed down on the swollen part of her stomach. Becca screamed. I backed away from the crack, then forced myself to look again. The movement beneath her skin became frantic. Dad pressed harder. A wet sound came from somewhere I could not see. Mom reached for a stainless steel tray. When she lifted it, something translucent and pale moved inside. It was about the size of my fist. Not a baby. Not exactly anything I had seen before. It folded in on itself, soft, wet. Thread-like appendages twitched along its surface. Becca stopped screaming. Her head fell sideways. Dad looked at the thing in the tray. Good. Mom's hand shook. She needs a break. We're already short. She's burning up. She'll be fine. Russell? He looked at her. Mom lowered her eyes. Dad carried the tray out. I ran. Back to the woodpile. Back to the kitchen. Anywhere but where he might see me. 20 minutes later, the smell began. Savory, sweet, rich enough to make my mouth water even though I knew what I had seen. That frightened me most. I was disgusted and hungry. The dining room changed when the smell entered. Conversation stopped. Every customer turned toward the kitchen. Not gradually, at once. 30 people inhaled. One woman closed her eyes. A man near the window smiled. Dad emerged with the first bowls. Everyone watched him like starving dogs. Nobody asked why there had been screaming in the back room. Nobody asked what was in the broth. They only wanted their share. I waited until after closing. Dad and Mom were downstairs. The basement door was locked. It was always locked. Becca's room was not. That was unusual. I slipped inside. The air smelled like bleach. Becca lay still. Her hands rested at her sides. The strap had been removed. Her eyes were closed. "Becca?" Nothing. I touched her shoulder. Cold. No. I shook her. "Becca!" No response. I pressed 2 fingers to her neck the way I had seen Mom do. I felt nothing. My chest tightened so hard I could not breathe. "Becca!" I sat beside her. For the first time in years, I remembered being 8 and asleep in her bed while a thunderstorm shook the windows. She had stayed awake until morning because I was afraid. I started crying. "I'm sorry." Her eyes opened. I screamed. Her hand shot out and locked around my wrist, too strong. "Becca?" Her eyes moved toward me. Her lips barely opened. "When they come for you," her fingers tightened, "don't let them put you downstairs." "What?" "Promise." "What's downstairs?" "Promise me." "I promise." Her grip loosened. "Run." Then her eyes empty. This time, she did not move again. I stayed there until footsteps sounded in the hallway. Mom entered. She saw me beside the bed. For 1 second, grief crossed her face. Then fear replaced it. "What are you doing in here?" "She's dead." Mom closed the door. "She's dead." "I know." "You know?" "Keep your voice down. What did you do to her?" Mom grabbed my arm. "Not now." I pulled away. "Dad killed her." "No." "I saw him." "You saw nothing." "I saw what came out of her." Mom's face went white, then calm, too calm. "What did you see?" I stepped back. "Nothing." "What did you see, Lena?" "Nothing." She stared at me, then smiled. A small, tired smile. "Good." She kissed my forehead. I almost recoiled. "You should get some sleep." "What about Becca?" "We'll take care of her." "How?" Mom opened the door. "Go to bed." That night, someone walked across my ceiling. Bare feet, slow, one end of the room to the other. I lay beneath the blanket and listened. There was no floor above me, only attic space. Step, 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 then humming. A tune Becca used to sing when she braided my hair. I sat up. "Becca?" The humming stopped. The vent above my desk clicked. A smell drifted into the room. Hollow broth. My stomach growled. I began to cry. Then the mirror across from my bed fogged from the inside. There was no steam in the room. A handprint appeared on the glass, then another, and in the reflection behind me stood my sister, pale, hair hanging wet around her face. I turned. Nothing. I looked back. She was closer. Her mouth moved. One word. "Run." The bedroom door opened. Mom stood there. "Who are you talking to?" I looked back at the mirror. Empty. No one. Mom watched me, then smiled. "Good girl." The next morning, Becca was gone. Her bed had been stripped, the chain had been removed from the floor, the floor stand was gone. Mom had scrubbed the walls. Dad reopened the restaurant at noon. I stood in the kitchen watching customers file in. Nobody asked where my sister was. One regular, Mr. Pritchard, had been coming every Thursday for almost a year. He had a red face, expensive boots, and a tremor in his left hand. That day, the tremor was gone. He smiled when Dad placed a bowl in front of him. "Been waiting all week." Dad laughed. "Good things come to people who know patience." Mr. Pritchard inhaled the steam. His expression changed. He frowned. "This is different." Dad stopped smiling. "How?" "Weaker." A woman at the next table tasted hers. She looked confused. Another customer raised his spoon. "What happened to it?" Dad's jaw tightened. "Nothing." Mr. Pritchard pushed the bowl away. "You changed the batch." "No." "Don't lie to me." The dining room became restless. People tasted, whispered, complained. One man stood. "I waited 5 hours for this?" Dad slammed his palm on the table. "Sit down." The room went silent. The man sat. Dad looked toward the kitchen, toward me, then toward Mom. They exchanged a glance. I understood it immediately. Becca was dead. The broth was weaker. They needed another source. That night, Mom made me steak. Real steak, not leftovers. Mashed potatoes, corn, chocolate cake from town. I stared at the plate. "What is this?" "Dinner." "For me?" Mom smiled. "For who else?" Dad came in carrying a shopping bag. He put it beside my chair. Inside were new jeans, a sweater, socks, even a pair of boots. I touched the sweater. Soft. Nothing in my life had ever been new unless it was school supplies. "Why?" Dad sat across from me. "Can't parents do something nice?" "Not mine." I did not say that. Mom reached over and brushed hair from my forehead. "You've been through a lot." Her touch made my skin crawl. "You don't have to work tomorrow." "What?" "Rest." Dad smiled. "Things are going to be different now." I wanted to believe him. That is the ugly truth. Even after everything I had seen, part of me wanted my parents to love me. I wore the sweater to bed. At 2 a.m, Becca's humming started in the vent. I sat up. The melody stopped. Then her voice whispered, don't eat what they give you. I looked toward the bedroom door. A cup sat on the floor outside. I had not heard anyone leave it. Warm milk. Mom used to make it when I was little. I picked it up. The surface smelled sweet. Then something tiny moved beneath the foam. I dropped the cup. It shattered. A pale thread wriggled across the floor. I backed into the wall. The thing was thinner than a worm, almost transparent. It curled once, then stopped. My bedroom door opened. Mom looked at the broken glass. What happened? I dropped it. She looked at the floor, at the pale thread, then at me. Her expression did not change. I'll clean it. I can. No. She stepped inside. I moved toward the door. Her hand closed around my wrist. Not hard, just enough. Sleep, she said. I looked at her fingers. There was a small, raised line moving under the skin of her forearm. I stopped breathing. Mom saw me looking. She released me and pulled down her sleeve. Bed. I obeyed. I did not sleep. The restaurant stayed closed the next day. Dad told customers the kitchen needed repairs. Cars still came. People still knocked. One woman cried on the porch. I just need one bowl. Dad told her to leave. She offered $500. Then $1,000. Dad shut the door. The woman stayed outside for 2 hours. At one point, I saw her crouched near the kitchen vent, breathing deeply. I understood then that whatever the broth did, it was not just a miracle. It was hunger. That afternoon, Dad told me to clean Becca's room. I almost refused. Then I realized he was giving me access. The room looked empty, too empty. Fresh sheets, new plastic mattress cover, new 4-pole, a metal tray, a box of gloves. On the side table, unopened tubing. I opened the closet. No clothes. Becca's things were gone. Then I looked at the bed. Leather restraints had been installed at both wrists. New. I put my hand beside one. It fit. Exactly. Something hit the floor below me. Thump. I froze. The basement. Thump. Thump. Then a scratching sound moved beneath the floorboards. I remembered Becca. Don't let them put you downstairs. I left the room. Dad stood at the end of the hall. How's it look? Fine. You like the new bed? My stomach turned. What? For guests. He smiled. We may start renting the room. Okay. He walked past me. His shoulder brushed mine. The smell of hollow broth clung to his clothes. That night, I woke with pain in my stomach. Sharp. Deep. I pulled up my shirt. A red dot sat 2 inches below my ribs, like a needle mark. I touched it. Something moved. Under my skin. I screamed. A thin ridge traveled from the red mark toward my side, then disappeared. I ran to the bathroom, turned on the light, lifted my shirt. Nothing. I stared into the mirror. My reflection looked exhausted. Then the skin beneath my ribs rippled. One movement, then another, like fingers pushing from inside. I vomited into the sink. The light flickered. Becca appeared behind me. Her face was pale. No wounds, no blood, just Becca. Run, she said. I turned. Empty bathroom. When I looked back, words had been written in the fogged mirror. Blackridge. I knew what it meant. Blackridge Tunnel, the fastest way out of the hollow. I packed a backpack before dawn. Water, 2 shirts, a flashlight. $23 I had hidden inside an old Bible. The chocolate bar Mom had bought me. I stood outside Becca's room. Empty. Then I left. The trail to Blackridge followed the old rail bed through dense trees. Morning should have been coming. Instead, the sky seemed darker the farther I walked. Birds stopped calling. The woods became still. I heard my name behind me. Lena, Mom. I almost turned. Then remembered an old rule every child in the hollow knew. If someone calls your name inside Blackridge Tunnel, don't answer. The tunnel had been abandoned before I was born. People said a train derailed inside it in 1958. Others said miners died there. Teenagers told worse stories, that if you answered a voice in the dark, something followed you home. I had always laughed. I was not laughing now. Lena. Mom again. Closer. Come home. I walked faster. The tunnel entrance appeared ahead. A black arch cut into the mountain. Cold air poured from it. I switched on my flashlight. The beam disappeared into darkness. Behind me, Lena. Dad, angry. Get back here right now. I ran inside. My shoes struck old gravel. The flashlight beam shook. The walls were wet. Graffiti appeared and vanished. 20 feet, 50, 100. Lena. Mom's voice came from ahead now. Impossible. I kept walking. Baby, we're not angry. I covered one ear, then Dad. We made mistakes. The voice came from behind, then ahead, then beside me. We only want you safe. I said nothing. The tunnel narrowed. My flashlight flickered. Then Becca called my name. Lena? I stopped. Her voice was weak. Please. I closed my eyes. She was dead. Lena! It's me. Tears filled my eyes. I'm cold. I started to turn. Please don't leave me here. I pressed both hands over my mouth. The voice changed, became angry. Lena. Then crying, then screaming, then 10 voices. 20. Mom, Dad, Becca, customers, people from church, children, all calling my name. I ran. My flashlight died. Darkness swallowed everything. I put one hand against the wall and kept moving. The tunnel should have been less than half a mile. I ran until my lungs burned. No exit. I ran until my legs shook. No light. The voices stopped. That was worse. I slowed. The air changed. Warm. I heard an engine. A car horn blasted. I screamed and jumped sideways. Sunlight hit my face. I was standing beside the road, at the tunnel entrance. I looked back. I had not gone more than 30 feet inside. A pickup passed. The driver shouted something. I could not hear over my breathing. I collapsed in the grass. Then I saw someone standing across the road. A girl, maybe 13, pale, thin, brown hair braided over one shoulder. She wore a faded yellow jacket that looked 20 years old. You answered? She asked. I shook my head. Good. Who are you? Sadie. She looked at the tunnel. They would have kept you. Who? She ignored the question. You're Lena Ward. How do you know? My mom knows everybody. She held out a hand. Come on. Where? Somewhere your parents won't look first. I should not have followed a stranger into the woods. But Sadie had chocolate on her breath, the same kind Becca used to hide in the coffee tin. For reasons I could not explain, that made me trust her. Sadie led me to a cabin beyond the ridge. The woman who opened the door was named Mara Bell. She was in her early 50s, though her gray-streaked hair made her look older. She took one look at me and said, They started you already? My knees weakened. What? She pulled me inside. Lift your shirt. No. Then die polite. I stared. Sadie rolled her eyes. She talks like that. I lifted my shirt. Mara found the red mark. She pressed 2 fingers around it. Pain shot through my ribs. I cried out. Fresh, she said. What is it? Mara went to a cabinet. Glass jars, dried herbs, old medical bottles. Not witchcraft exactly, not medicine exactly. She returned with a flashlight and held it against my side. Under the skin, something moved away from the light. I screamed. Mara grabbed my shoulder. Quiet. What is that? Something your family should have buried 70 years ago. She gave me a bitter liquid. I refused. Sadie drank a sip first. See? Mara glared at her. You don't need that. Sadie shrugged. I drank. It tasted like burnt roots. My stomach cramped. 10 minutes later, I vomited into a bucket. A translucent thread, 3 inches long, twisted in the fluid. I cried so hard I could barely breathe. Mara watched without sympathy. That isn't the colony, just an early larval stage. Colony? She sat across from me. The mountain is full of caves. Before the highway, before electricity, people down here survived however they could. During the Depression, some men found animals deep underground, deer mostly, rabbits, things with growths under the skin. What growths? Parasites, maybe fungus, maybe something nobody has named. Doesn't matter. It matters to me. Mara nodded. Fair. She continued. People discovered the fluid around the colonies did things. Pain disappeared. Fever dropped. Old men felt young. At first they used animals. My stomach turned. Then, animals stopped producing enough. I knew. Becca? Mara looked at me. Your sister wasn't the first human host. I stood. No. Sit. You're lying. Ask your father about his Aunt June. Ask Mercer about the Keller boy. Ask anyone old enough to remember why the church cemetery has graves without bodies. Stop. Your family didn't create the thing. They just got greedy enough to serve it. I thought of the customers breathing steam. People are infected? Some. How many? Enough. Does the broth cure them? Mara laughed once. No. Then why do they feel better? Because a parasite that wants a host alive can be very generous at first. I felt cold. What happens later? Mara looked toward Sadie. Dependency, changes in appetite, changes in pain response, sometimes behavior. Then what? Then the body belongs more to the colony than the person. I thought of the line moving beneath Mom's skin. Can you remove it? Early, maybe. From me? Maybe. I hated that word. Why did Becca die? Mara's face changed. Because your parents kept harvesting from her after her body started failing. I wanted to hit her. Instead, I whispered, she warned me. Mara nodded. She tried to warn a lot of people. You knew her? Yes. How? She came here. When? 2 years ago. My throat tightened. What did she want? To get you out. I stared at Mara. What do you mean she came here? Exactly what I said. Why didn't you help her? Mara's jaw tightened. I tried. Not hard enough. Sadie looked between us. Mara sat back. Becca wanted to take you and run. She had called county services twice. Both times your parents convinced the caseworker everything was fine. Small town. Familiar faces. Clean kitchen. Church people willing to say Russell and Elaine Ward were good parents. They're not? I know. Then why didn't Becca just take me? She did. A memory came back. I was 12. Becca had woken me before sunrise. She told me we were going for a drive. A woman waited at the end of the road. I had panicked. I thought Becca was giving me away. I screamed until Dad came outside. He dragged me home. That night, Becca hit me, told me I ruined everything. I had hated her for years because of it. She was trying to save me. Yes, my throat hurt. Why didn't she tell me? You were 12. You loved your parents. No, I didn't. You wanted them to love you. That's usually enough. I looked away. Sadie moved closer and handed me a piece of chocolate. I almost laughed. You always have chocolate? Sometimes. Where do you get it? She pointed toward Mara. Mara was watching us strangely. Sadie? She said. Go outside. Sadie frowned. Why? Now. Sadie left. I waited until the door closed. What? Mara rubbed both hands over her face. There's something else. What? Don't get too attached to that girl. I stared. What does that mean? Exactly what it sounds like. She's your daughter. Mara said nothing. A cold feeling moved through me. How old is Sadie? Mara looked at the floor. 13. How long has she been 13? Silence. I backed away. No. Mara opened a wooden box beneath the table. Inside were newspaper clippings. One had a photograph. Sadie. Same braid, same face, same yellow jacket. The headline read, Local Girl Missing After Hollow Fire. The date was October 2004. I read it again. And again. That isn't her. It is. No. My daughter disappeared 22 years ago. But she's outside. I know. You talk to her? Sometimes. She eats. Sometimes. She touched me. I know. I stood so quickly the chair fell. What is she? Mara looked tired. I don't know. That's your answer? The mountain gives people a lot of answers. Most of them are lies. Is she dead? Yes. How? Mara's eyes hardened. Silas Mercer. The name was familiar. Everyone in the Hollow knew Reverend Silas Mercer. He had baptized half the town, buried the other half. He ran the church pantry, handled emergency funds, and decided who got help when winter roads washed out. He had also sat at the same corner table in our restaurant every Sunday for as long as I could remember. Mara leaned toward me. Mercer was part of the old group protecting the colony. Sadie's father wanted out. He threatened to tell state health officials. A week later, our cabin burned. You said Sadie disappeared. She didn't disappear. Mara's voice broke. I found what was left. I looked toward the door. But she's out there. Yes. You're not afraid? Every day. Then why? Because sometimes grief is selfish. Mara's eyes filled. I know she's dead. I also know she still comes home. The door opened. Sadie stood there. Her face was unreadable. You told her. Mara closed her eyes. Sadie, you promised. I had to. Sadie looked at me. I didn't want you scared. I stepped backward. You're dead. She smiled sadly. Apparently, I should have run. Instead, I asked, did you save me in the tunnel? Sadie nodded. Why? Because Becca asked. I stopped breathing. When? Sadie looked toward the trees. After she died. I left Mara's cabin before sunset, not because I trusted her, because I did not trust anyone. She told me to stay. Sadie followed me to the trail. You shouldn't go alone. I need to think. That's when people make the worst decisions. You're 13. Technically, I guess I'm 35. I almost smiled, then remembered she was dead. I don't know what you are. Neither do I. Does Mara? No. Does Mercer? Sadie's face changed. He knows enough. She pointed toward the ridge. If you go back to the hollow, don't go through the tunnel. I wasn't planning to. And if someone calls your name, don't answer. She nodded. I took out the chocolate she had given me. Why chocolate? Sadie looked embarrassed. I liked it when I was alive. Then she walked back toward the cabin. For 1 second, the trees passed between us. When I could see the path again, she was gone. I found Reverend Mercer before he found me. His church sat near the old county road. White siding, small bell tower, cemetery behind it. I waited until evening service ended. People passed me without asking why I looked dirty or why I was carrying a backpack. That was the hollow. Everybody knew. Nobody asked. Mercer stepped onto the porch. He was 72, thin and straight-backed, with silver hair and a voice that could make terrible things sound reasonable. Lena Ward. I said nothing. He smiled. You can answer me out here. My skin prickled. How do you know about that? About what? The tunnel. He opened the church door. Come inside. No. Then we'll talk on the porch. He sat. I remained standing. You've been with Maribel. How do you know? You smell like her medicine. What is she? A grieving woman who should have left this mountain a long time ago. Sadie is dead. Mercer's face barely changed. Yes. And I saw her. I believe you. That surprised me. You believe in ghosts? I believe this mountain makes grief visible. That doesn't mean anything. It means I don't pretend to understand everything. I stared at him. Mara says you killed Sadie. Mercer sighed. Mara says many things. Did you? No. Was her father part of your group? Yes. What group? The people keeping dangerous things contained. I laughed. You mean the colony? His eyes sharpened. So she told you. You feed it to people. I do not. My parents do. Your parents made choices. You let them. I tried to limit the damage. By sending customers? By keeping it in one place. I stepped closer. That's a lie. Mercer looked at me calmly. What did Mara tell you she wants? To stop it? No. She wants revenge. Maybe she deserves it. At your age, revenge feels simple. At your age, lying probably does too. For the first time, anger touched his face, then disappeared. Your sister came to me, he said. I froze. When? Last year. Why? She asked me to help you. Did you? I tried. You did nothing. I told Russell to stop using Becca. Dad listens to you. Not when money is involved. You could have gone to police. And told them what? That a biological colony beneath a mountain was being harvested into soup? That infected people were returning because they craved secretions? Do you know what happens when outsiders arrive without understanding containment? People stop getting poisoned, or the colony spreads. I looked at him. It already spread. His silence told me more than his answer. How far? Mercer stood. Come inside. No. How far? He glanced toward the cemetery. Farther than Russell knows. My stomach turned. You're worse than him. That depends on what you think I'm trying to prevent. Mara says you want me dead. Mara wants you to believe that. What do you want? To keep you alive. Why? Mercer looked directly at me. Because your infection is not behaving like Becca's. Cold moved through me. What does that mean? It means you were inoculated, but the larvae are not developing normally. How do you know? Your mother told me. She told you? This morning. My parents knew I had run. Of course they did. Mercer reached into his pocket. He removed a small metal pendant shaped like a cross. Wear this. I laughed. No, it isn't magic. What is it? Silver casing. Inside is a compound Mara won't have. You expect me to trust you? No. He held it out. I expect you to want time. I did not take it. Mercer lowered his hand. Mara will tell you I sacrificed Sadie. Did you? No. She said her cabin burned because her husband wanted to expose you. Her husband started the fire. Why? He had become infected. Maura had not said that. Mercer continued. He was trying to destroy the colony. He believed fire would do it. Instead, he spread spores through the ventilation shafts of an old processing building. Spores? Not exactly. We don't have good words for it. And Sadie? She was inside. You left her. His face tightened. We couldn't enter. You let her burn. We would have died. That's not the same as couldn't. No. For the first time, he looked old. I've lived with that distinction for 22 years, a voice called from behind the church. Lena! Becca! I turned. No one. Mercer grabbed my arm. Don't answer. I stared at him. He heard it too. Becca called again. Lena! From the cemetery. Mercer looked toward the graves. She shouldn't be this strong. What? Your sister. The church bell rang. Once. No one was inside. Mercer released me. Go home. You just said, go home now. Why? His face had gone pale, because something changed when Becca died. The bell rang again, then a third time. Every light in the church went out. From the cemetery came Becca's humming. Mercer whispered, She isn't the only thing that woke up. I did not go home. I hid in the abandoned school. The windows were broken. Old desks lay stacked in classrooms. I found a coat in the nurse's office and slept beneath it. At midnight, I woke to someone writing on the chalkboard. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I opened my eyes. A figure stood at the board. Becca, her back to me. Becca? She stopped. I remembered the tunnel. Too late. She turned. Her face was normal, almost. Then her jaw opened farther than it should. A dark liquid ran from her mouth. I stumbled backward. She lifted one finger and pointed at the board. Words. Room 3 tape. Then the lights flickered. She was gone. I did not know what room 3 meant until I remembered our restaurant had once been a boarding house. Dad called Becca's bedroom room 3 when he was drunk. I went home before dawn. The restaurant was dark. No cars, no lights. I entered through the kitchen window. Mom and Dad were asleep upstairs. I moved to Becca's room, room 3. The mattress was new. Restraints still there. I searched drawers. Nothing. Closet. Nothing. Then I remembered Becca hiding candy in a coffee tin when we were children. The old vent cover near the floor had 4 screws. One was loose. I pulled. Behind it sat a small digital recorder wrapped in plastic. My hands shook. I pressed play. Static. Then Becca's voice. Lena, if you're hearing this, I didn't get you out. I sat on the floor. I need you to understand something. I never hated you. I covered my mouth. I tried being nice. You wouldn't leave me. I tried telling you the truth, but Mom caught me. After that, I thought if you hated me enough, maybe you'd run the first chance you got. Tears blurred the room. The woman at the road when you were 12 wasn't a stranger. She worked with a youth shelter. I was trying to get you away. I remembered screaming, Dad dragging me home, Becca hitting me later. You ruined everything, she had said. The recording continued. I called county services twice. Mercer stopped one report. Dad scared off another caseworker. Mara offered to help, but I didn't trust her. I looked toward the door. Don't trust Mercer. Don't trust Mara either. Both of them think they're fixing something old. A pause. Becca started crying. I don't know if I'm going to get another chance. My chest hurt. If they start treating you well after I'm gone, run. They don't love you suddenly. They need a host. I shut my eyes. There's a basement under the old pantry. Dad keeps the real records there. Names, shipments, customers. Mercer knows. He thinks he controls distribution. Dad thinks he controls production. They're both wrong. A sound in the recording. A door. Becca whispered quickly. The colony reacts to us. To fear, to blood. I don't know why. If I die before I can stop it, burn the basement. Then another voice. Mom. Who are you talking to? The recording ended. I sat alone in the room where my sister died. For years, I thought her cruelty proved she had stopped loving me. Now I knew every cruel word had been a failed rescue. I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, I'll finish it. The humming began in the wall, soft, almost approving. That was when I stopped running. Not because I became fearless, because there was nowhere left to run where the story would not follow me. Mara hated Mercer. Mercer feared Mara. My parents needed me. The colony needed all of them. I did not have power, but I had information. Sometimes that is enough to make dangerous people destroy each other. I went to Mara first. I told her Mercer planned to move the colony. Not exactly a lie. I had heard him say it was spreading. Mara's face hardened. Where? Basement. Tonight? I think so. Then I went to Mercer. I told him Mara planned to burn the hollow table. Also not exactly a lie. Mara wanted the colony gone. Mercer stood immediately. She'll spread it. Then stop her. Finally, I went home. Mom opened the door. She started crying. Oh, baby. She hugged me. I let her. Dad stood behind her. Relief. Real relief. That hurt more than hatred. We knew you'd come back, he said. I was scared. Mom touched my hair. You're safe now. I looked at Dad. I understand. He smiled. What? About Becca. Both of them froze. I lowered my eyes. She was sick. You were trying to help. Mom's hand tightened on my shoulder. Dad studied me, then smiled. That's right. And the restaurant needs us. Dad's smile widened. Family takes care of family. I almost vomited. I want to help. Mom cried harder. Dad hugged me. Over his shoulder, I saw something move beneath the skin of his neck. A pale ridge. It disappeared under his collar. I closed my eyes. Soon. They waited until midnight. Mom gave me tea. I pretended to drink. Dad locked the front door. Then he opened the pantry. Behind a shelf of canned tomatoes was a narrow metal door I had never seen. Stairs descended beneath the house. Cold air came up. Not basement air. Cave air. Wet stone. Mineral. And underneath it, the smell of hollow broth. My stomach clenched. Dad carried a lantern. Mom took my hand. You'll feel better once it's done. What? She smiled. The fever, the cramps, all of it. I let her lead me down. The stairs ended in a concrete room larger than the restaurant above. Old fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Metal beds lined one wall. Glass tanks lined another. Clear tubes ran from tanks into pumps. Inside the tanks were pale sacks suspended in yellow fluid. Some small, some the size of basketballs. Something moved inside each one. I stopped. Dad squeezed my shoulder. Don't be scared. Photos covered the far wall. Black and white, Polaroids, printed phone photos. Men, women, teenagers, some lying in the same beds, dates beneath them. 1968, 1976, 1989, 1997, 2008, 2019. Becca's photograph was last. Under it, Host 14. Below that, an empty space. A clipboard hung there. Host 15, Lena Ward. I stared at my name. You planned this? Dad sighed. Don't think of it like that. How should I think of it? Purpose, Mom whispered. We all have one. Becca's purpose was dying? Mom looked away. Dad's voice hardened. She kept this family alive. No, she kept your business alive. You don't understand what this place does for people. I've seen them. Then you've seen it works. They're addicted. People are addicted to pain pills, coffee, sugar. Doesn't mean those things don't help. I laughed. Dad's face tightened. You think this is funny? No. Then stop acting like a child. I am a child. His hand moved before I could react. He slapped me. Hard. There he was, my real father. No new clothes, no steak, no soft voice. Just Russell Ward. Mom caught his arm. Not before the procedure. I looked at her. Procedure. That word was worse than monster. Dad unlocked one of the beds. Get on. No. His face became still. You said you understood. I lied. Mom stepped behind me. I moved away. Dad smiled without humor. You're Becca all over again. Good. He lunged. I ran between the tanks. Dad caught my backpack and ripped it off. I fell. Mom grabbed my ankle. I kicked. My heels struck her mouth. She screamed. Dad pulled me up by the hair. I bit his hand. He roared and hit me in the side. Pain exploded. Something under my ribs moved. Not a twitch. A violent surge. Dad froze. He felt it. His anger disappeared. Elaine. Mom touched my stomach. Her eyes widened. It's responding. To what? Neither answered. The tanks began to vibrate. A low pulse moved through the room. Thump, thump, thump. The same sound I had heard beneath Becca's floor. Dad dragged me toward the bed. Then someone knocked upstairs. 3 times. Dad stopped. Mom whispered, "Who is that?" A second knock, then a voice. Reverend Mercer. "Russell!" Dad swore. Mom looked at me. "What did you do?" I smiled. Nothing. The basement lights went out. Emergency bulbs glowed red. From somewhere in the cave came Becca's humming. Mom backed away. "No." Dad turned toward the darkness. "Becca?" The humming stopped. Then Mara's voice came from the stairwell. "You should have listened to your daughter." Dad grabbed a shotgun from beneath a table. Mara appeared at the bottom of the stairs carrying a gasoline can. Behind her stood Sadie, pale, yellow jacket. Dad raised the gun. Mara laughed. "You going to shoot a dead girl too?" Dad stared at Sadie, his face drained. "You?" Sadie smiled. "Hi, Mr. Ward." Mom made the sign of the cross. Sadie looked offended. "That seems rude." Footsteps thundered above. Mercer entered with 3 men from the church. He saw Mara. "Mara, don't. 22 years late for that. You burn this room, you spread it. That's what you always say, because it's true." Dad pointed the shotgun between them. "Everybody, get out of my house." Mercer looked at him. "Your house?" Something about that question changed the room. Dad lowered the gun slightly. Mercer stepped closer. "You still think this belongs to you?" "I kept it alive." "You harvested it after I told you to stop." "You sent the customers. To control exposure. You sent money to keep you from selling elsewhere." Dad laughed. "You're no better." "I know." For the first time, Mercer did not sound righteous, just tired. Mara set down the gasoline. "You both fed people poison and called it containment." Dad raised the gun again. "Enough." The tanks pulsed. Thump, thump, thump. Everyone stopped. Sadie looked toward the cave entrance behind the equipment. "What is that?" Mercer's face changed. "Russell." Dad said nothing. "How deep did you tap the colony?" Dad's silence was answer enough. Mercer rushed toward the pumps. "You idiot!" "What?" "You were only supposed to harvest secondary growth." Secondary didn't produce enough. Mercer pulled open a metal panel. Inside, tubes ran through a crack in the stone wall. Not toward tanks, into the mountain. He stared. "You connected directly to the primary chamber." Dad said it doubled output. Mercer turned slowly. "You didn't increase production." "What?" "You fed it." The concrete floor shuddered. A glass tank cracked. Yellow fluid ran across the floor. The pale sack inside split. Dozens of translucent threads poured out. Mom screamed. The threads moved toward the nearest warm body, one of Mercer's men. They climbed his boot. He kicked wildly. Another tank burst, then another. The room filled with wet sounds. Mara grabbed my arm. "Move." We ran toward the stairs. Dad blocked us. "No." "Russell!" Mom screamed. He looked at her. Something moved beneath her face. A ridge traveled from her jaw to her temple. She clawed at her cheek. Another ridge appeared, then 5. Her skin rippled. "Get them out!" Dad backed away. Mom fell. Her body curled. Under her sleeves, dozens of small movements raced along her arms. She screamed, "Russell!" He stared, not with love, with horror, at what years of broth had done. Then his own neck moved. One thick shape pushed beneath the skin. Dad touched it. No. Another appeared across his chest. Mercer whispered, "All of you." I looked at him. "What?" "The regular drinkers." His face was gray. "Everyone who's been consuming concentrated broth." "How many?" Nobody answered. From upstairs came screaming. Customers. I had forgotten the people outside. They had been waiting even though the restaurant was closed. They always waited. Now something in the colony had called them. Feet pounded across the dining room. The locked door broke. A man shouted, "Where is it?" Another, "I can smell it." Mara looked toward the ceiling. "They're coming down." The first customer reached the stairs. Mr. Pritchard. His eyes were wide. He smiled when he saw the broken tanks. Oh God, not fear, joy. He dropped to his knees and scooped yellow fluid from the floor. Mercer shouted, "Don't!" Mr. Pritchard drank. His entire body went rigid. Then he laughed. A horrible, relieved laugh. More people descended. They pushed past one another. Some slipped in the fluid. Some crawled. Nobody cared. The smell in the basement had become overpowering, sweet, savory, warm. My mouth filled with saliva. I hated myself for wanting it. Mara slapped me. "Don't breathe through your nose." I covered my face. Sadie stood perfectly still. The customers ignored her. Maybe because she was dead? Maybe because the colony could not smell her. Dad fired the shotgun into the ceiling. Everyone stopped. Back up! Mr. Pritchard looked at him. Something moved beneath his forehead. Russell? Dad took one step back. Mr. Pritchard smiled. You kept it from us. The crowd moved. Dad fired. Chaos. People screamed. Lights flashed. A tank exploded. Mercer pulled me toward the cave wall. We need to shut the pumps. Why? If it reaches the primary chamber with this much blood and heat, what happens? I don't know. Great. We reached the control panel. Dad grabbed Mercer. They fell. Mara poured gasoline along the base of the tanks. Mercer saw her. No fire! Then give me a better idea. The ventilation shafts connect to the mountain. I know. You'll aerosolize it. Mara stopped. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Then Becca started humming. Everyone heard it, not just me. The customers froze. Mom stopped screaming. Dad looked toward the dark cave opening. The humming came from inside. Then from the pipes. Then the vents. Then every tank at once. Sadie whispered, She wants us out. Mercer stared at her. You hear it? Sadie smiled sadly. I hear a lot of dead girls. The red lights flickered. Becca's voice came through the old intercom speaker above the beds. Lena, I answered before anyone could stop me. Becca, nothing attacked, nothing took me. Her voice said, Now. I understood. The recorder burned the basement. Maybe Mercer was right about spores. Maybe Mara was right about destroying it. Maybe both were wrong. But Becca had spent 2 years inside this place. She knew the colony better than anyone alive. I grabbed Mara's gasoline. Mercer seized my wrist. You don't know what you're doing. No. Then don't. You knew for decades and did nothing. I contained it. You fed it, people. I prevented something worse. That is what every monster in this hollow says. I pulled free. Dad staggered toward me. His shirt moved as if something large crawled underneath. Lena. I backed away. His voice softened. Baby. I almost laughed. He had never called me that. Help me. Something pushed against the skin beneath his eye. Please. Behind him, Mom crawled across the floor. Her mouth opened. A thin, translucent strand hung between her teeth. Dad looked at her, then at me. Do something. I held the gasoline. You did this. I didn't know. You knew enough. He lunged. A figure stepped between us. Becca. Not a corpse. Not bleeding. Just my sister in the old red sweater she wore when I was little. Dad stopped. His face collapsed. Rebecca. She looked at him. No anger. That frightened him more. He whispered, I'm sorry. Becca opened her mouth. The humming stopped. Every infected person in the room screamed at once. Dad fell. His body convulsed. Mr. Pritchard collapsed beside him. Mom curled into herself. The customers dropped one after another. Beneath their skin, the colony moved toward their throats. Mercer shouted, It's calling them back! To where? He pointed at the cave. The infected bodies began crawling, not toward us, toward the dark opening. Some used hands and knees. Some dragged themselves. Some stood with jerking movements. Mom crawled past me. Her eyes met mine. For 1 second, she was my mother again. Lena. I knelt. She reached toward me. Then a violent movement traveled up her neck. Her expression vanished. She turned toward the cave and kept crawling. Dad followed. I did not stop them. Mara grabbed my hand. We have seconds. What do we do? Sadie pointed to a rusted valve beside the pumps. Open that. Mercer stared. How do you know? Sadie looked at him. I died here. Silence. Mara whispered. What? Sadie walked toward the valve. The fire wasn't at our cabin. Mara's face went blank. Sadie continued. You brought me here that night, Mom. No. You wanted to show Dad what Mercer was doing. No. He found us. Mara shook her head. No. You ran. I came back. You ran. I came back. Sadie touched her mother's face. I know. Mara sobbed. Mercer looked away. The truth was worse than either version. Sadie had died because all of them had been fighting around something they refused to destroy. Mara, Mercer, her father, the hollow itself. Sadie turned the valve. A deep mechanical groan shook the room. Gasoline smell mixed with something sharper. Mercer understood. The old sterilization line. Sadie nodded. Becca found it. How? She showed me. The pumps reversed. Fluid rushed from the tanks toward the cave. Mercer shouted, "The oxidizer will ignite if it hits the heaters." Sadie looked at me. That's the point. Mara grabbed her daughter. No. Mom, no, you have to go. I just got you back. You never got me back. Mara broke. Sadie held her. For 22 years you kept me here because you couldn't say goodbye. Mara shook her head against Sadie's shoulder. Please. I was tired. Her voice sounded very young. I've been tired a long time. Mara made a sound I will never forget. Not a scream, something deeper. The sound a person makes when grief finally wins. Sadie kissed her cheek, then looked at me. Take her. I grabbed Mara. She fought. Mercer helped me drag her toward the stairs. Behind us, Sadie walked toward the cave. Becca stood there waiting. The two girls looked at each other, then at me. Becca smiled. I cried. I'm sorry. She shook her head. You came back for me. No. Yes. The first flame appeared beneath the pumps. Mercer shouted, "Move!" We ran upstairs. The dining room was empty. Every infected customer had gone below. We reached the porch. The mountain groaned. Not the house, the mountain. A pressure wave threw us into the yard. Windows burst outward. Fire rolled from the kitchen vents. The hollow table burned. Not like wood. The flames were blue at first, then orange, then almost white. From beneath the ground came a sound like thousands of insects beating wings against glass. Mara lay in the grass crying Sadie's name. Mercer sat against a tree. Blood ran from his forehead. I stared at the restaurant. In an upstairs window, Becca stood behind the glass. She looked exactly as she had when I was 8, healthy, bright. She raised one hand. I raised mine. The roof collapsed. She disappeared. The fire burned for 2 days. State police came. Then county health officers. Then people from agencies whose jackets had letters I did not recognize. They found the basement. They found tanks, beds, records, human tissue, animal tissue, contaminated equipment. They found enough to turn the hollow table into national news. They did not tell the public about ghosts. They did not tell them about Black Ridge Tunnel. They did not tell them Sadie Bell walked out of a 22-year-old photograph. The official story was easier. Illegal medical experimentation, food contamination, unlicensed biological material, fraud, abuse, negligent homicide, a hidden rural operation exploiting vulnerable family members. All of that was true. None of it was the whole truth. My parents' bodies were never recovered. Neither were most of the customers who went into the cave. Crews searched until a collapse made the tunnels too dangerous. Reverend Mercer survived. He testified. For the first time in his life, he told people outside the hollow everything he knew. Or almost everything. Mara disappeared before investigators could question her. I saw her once more, 3 days after the fire. She stood near the tree line outside the temporary clinic. No Sadie beside her. Mara looked older, smaller. She raised a hand, then walked into the woods. I never saw her again. Doctors treated me for parasitic exposure. They found strange inflammatory markers in my blood. Nothing they could identify under imaging. The crawling sensation beneath my skin stopped after several weeks. The fever stopped. The dreams did not. I dreamed about Becca. Sometimes she was still chained. Sometimes she was standing in the tunnel. Sometimes she sat beside Sadie beneath a tree, both of them eating chocolate and laughing at something I could not hear. Those were the good dreams. 6 months later, I lived with my aunt outside Columbus. A normal subdivision, sidewalks, mailboxes, neighbors who waved. The nearest mountain was hours away. I went to school. I had a room that locked from the inside. Nobody entered without knocking. The first month, that felt supernatural. My aunt bought groceries on Sundays. One evening, I went with her. We were walking through the refrigerated section when I smelled it. I stopped. Savory, sweet, rich. My mouth filled with saliva. No. My aunt kept walking. Lena? I turned toward the freezer case. Soup containers. Dozens. Chicken noodle, tomato basil, beef stew. Then a black label with silver lettering. Hollow Broth. My heart stopped. I opened the freezer. A man beside me reached for one. Have you tried this? He asked. I could not answer. He smiled. My coworker swears by it. I looked at the packaging. The mountain secret everyone is talking about. Small batch wellness broth. now available nationwide. The ingredient list looked ordinary: bone stock, vegetables, herbs, natural flavoring. I almost dropped the container. My phone buzzed. An advertisement. Hollow Broth first box, 20% off delivered to your door. I stared. The man beside me opened the freezer again and took 3 containers. He held one beneath his nose, inhaled. His eyes closed, exactly like the customers at the Hollow table. Then something moved beneath the skin of his neck, a small ridge, gone in a second. I backed away. Lena? My aunt came around the aisle. What happened? I pointed. The man was already walking away. What? I looked at the broth, at the black label, at the Smiling Mountain logo. Then, through the glass, I saw my reflection. For a fraction of a second, Becca stood behind me. She looked worried, not peaceful, worried. I turned. No one. When I looked back, a message had appeared in the condensation on the freezer door. Not over. I stepped back. My aunt touched my shoulder. Lena? I took her hand. We have to go. What? Now. We left the cart, walked out. I did not explain until we were inside the car. My aunt believed enough. That was all I needed. We drove home. I spent the night searching the brand. The company had been registered 4 months earlier. Delaware. Parent corporation undisclosed. Distribution centers in 3 states. Influencers were already promoting it. Videos showed people drinking Hollow Broth after workouts, after surgery, during chronic pain flare-ups. Comments filled the pages. I feel incredible. Best sleep of my life. Already ordered more. Can't stop thinking about it. One comment made my hands go cold. Does anyone else smell it before opening the container? I shut the laptop. At 2:13 in the morning, someone knocked on my bedroom window. 2nd floor. 3 taps. I did not look. Tap, tap, tap. Then Becca's voice. Lena. I closed my eyes. The rule in the tunnel came back. Don't answer. But Becca had saved me. Hadn't she? Lena. I stood, walked toward the window. The curtain moved slightly. I stopped before touching it. What do you want? Silence. Then, run. My blood went cold. From downstairs came the sound of the refrigerator door opening. My aunt was asleep. I knew she was asleep. I heard plastic packaging, then the click of a microwave button. Beep, beep, beep. A smell began to rise through the vents. Savory, sweet, rich, hollow broth. I opened my bedroom door. The hallway was dark. Aunt Rachel? No answer. The microwave hummed downstairs. I walked to the top of the stairs. A figure stood in the kitchen, back to me. My aunt. Maybe. She leaned over the counter. Steam rose from a black container. Aunt Rachel? The figure stopped, slowly turned. It was my aunt. Her face looked normal. Then she smiled. Someone sent us dinner. I looked at the container. No shipping box, no delivery bag, just hollow broth. How? She lifted the spoon. I don't know. Don't eat it. Her smile faded. Why? Put it down. Lena, please. The spoon trembled in her hand. Then something beneath the skin of her wrist moved toward her elbow. I stopped breathing. She looked down. What was that? The spoon fell. The window behind her fogged. Words appeared in the glass. Too late. My aunt screamed. I ran to her. The broth container tipped. Steam filled the kitchen. For 1 second, I saw Becca standing beyond the glass. Not inside. Outside. She pointed toward the front door. Run. This time I listened. I grabbed my aunt's hand. We ran barefoot into the street. Behind us, the smoke alarm started screaming. The kitchen light flickered. Then every light in the house went out. We stood beneath a street lamp, my aunt shaking, me holding her wrist. Nothing moved beneath her skin. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe not. Across the street, a delivery van was parked. Black lettering on the side. Hollow Broth. No driver, no plates. The van's rear doors slowly opened. Inside were dozens of black containers. And from somewhere deep inside the dark cargo space came the same humming Becca used to sing when she braided my hair. My aunt whispered, "What is that?" I did not answer, because I finally understood something. The worst thing my family ever did was not put the colony in a soup pot. It was teach it how to travel. End.